Today we have a special guest, someone who I have known for over 20 years. He's been in the strength and conditioning world for over 30 plus years. And some of you actually may know him around Ottawa because his past life was in a very popular Ottawa chain called Lone Star, and he was probably responsible for opening up a majority of them. But Greg has a lot of experience in the world of strength and conditioning. He's worked with many athletes, right? Yeah. I think that's kind of your specialty. And I wanted to bring him on because he's got some very great experience working with athletes, and he's gotten some really good results, and his gym is called Gladiator Strength and Conditioning, and he's got a lot of insight, and I want to ask him a lot more questions about teenagers and strength and conditioning. He's the perfect guest for it. I'm going to give Greg the floor here. So Greg, give us a little bit of an intro about yourself and how you got into strength and conditioning.
Well, thanks so much, Harry. First of all, I just wanted to thank you for inviting me for the podcast. Really honored to be a part of it.
I'm thankful you had the time because you're a busy guy. You're a very busy guy.
I'll always make time for you. Another nice thing, too, is I'm really glad you asked that question because strength and conditioning actually has deep meaning to me, and there's a lot of history there. When I was younger, I was a very, very good athlete, but I was tiny. I was small. My dad was always worried that I was going to get hurt. My dad was an elite athlete. He was the captain of the Carleton U basketball and the football team. He was such a great athlete at Carleton U, they had to create an award for him, and it was the 5-letter C. My cousin, Gord Bearson, who also was of Lone Star fame as well, he was an elite football player. He won a national championship with the Ottawa Sooners. He was a guest coach for the Rough Riders. He had a tryout with the Dallas Cowboys.
Nice.
Both of him and my father realized that I had potential in sport, but they noticed how small and weak I was. They're the ones that actually first got me into strength and conditioning at a young age. I started at 13. You know, I was lucky to be at the Ottawa Athletic Club.
Classic
learning
place.
from guys that went on to become some of the greatest strength coaches in the world. And the other, obviously, you know, learning from my cousin and my father has deep meaning, but another very special meaning to me as well is the first elite athlete that I trained was back in 1984. That's why I have that in my logo. I put established 1984. It was one of my best friends. His name was Mark Tevens. Mark was playing for the Peterborough Petes at the time, which is in the OHL. He came to me and he asked me if I would train him in the off season to prepare him for his next season, which was his NHL draft year. At the time, I was heavily into lifting. I was getting pretty strong, and people knew that I was in the gym all the time, and he put his trust in me to train him. And I used the tools that I'd learned at the time. Luckily, I was learning from some of those guys at the Ottawa Athletic Club, professional athletes of different sports, Olympic lifters, Olympic bobsled team, bodybuilders, everything. I trained him for the spring and the summer. He ended up having his best year ever in the OHL. He had 43 goals and 90 assists, which is incredible. That assist is still a record to this day for the Peterborough Petes. And he ended up being drafted 64th overall by the Pittsburgh Penguins in the NHL draft. That sort of stuck with me later on in life to know that, you know what, I'm not going to be a professional athlete, but I think I could be a good coach. It just kind of spiraled from there. And so that was how I sort of got started in the strength and conditioning coaching and how I started my fitness journey.
So can I just ask one question? What did your dad say to you, right? Because remember, there's a little bit of an age difference in what you would say to your child today.
Yes.
So what did your dad say? Like, you're weak, lift weights? Like, how was that conversation?
Well, that's pretty funny, actually. Like, my dad was kind of a quiet, calm demeanor guy. It was more my cousin that was like, you're scrawny and you're weak. You got to get in the gym. Whereas my dad, in his way, he drove me to the gym.
Okay, gotcha.
And that signaled to me that you need to do it. Because I was small, I was fearless. I didn't realize that the sports would pass me by unless I got stronger and bigger.
So you started lifting at 13. What sports were you playing back then?
I was playing competitive hockey. I was playing competitive baseball. And then later on, I got into football in high school. Obviously needed for football.
Right. So you started lifting weights at 13 to be better at sport. So that makes sense to why you always, ever since I've met you, you always say, got to work on the younger athletes, younger athletes because they're unaware of the benefits of lifting and what it can do to their play. So let's go through that. Obviously, there's a lot of different types of thought processes around teenagers lifting.
Yes.
And you work with, so what's the age category that you majority work with?
Majority that I work with is usually from 12 to 19, 20, 21, then into the pros or NCAA. But I have started some elite athletes at 9, 10 years old. Very few. If I do take them, like right now I have a few 11-year-olds that are elites, and they're capable of absorbing and learning and being disciplined enough to train for the full hour. Because when we're training the kids, we're actually teaching them. It's not just having them run around and whatnot. We're teaching them proper form, technique,
You're teaching
movements.
them lifting technique before you load the bar. You
That's
teach them
right,
the
that's
movement
right.
patterns. So what are some of the benefits that, me and you know the benefits, but to the people who are listening, who are parents, right? Because they're always scared about lifting weights. I know my daughter's been lifting since about 11 or 12.
Yes.
Right? And what are some of the benefits that they give you as feedback?
Yeah.
What are some of the benefits kids have told you that started lifting? Let's just say we're in the gym with you, right?
Yes,
And
yeah.
lifting could be, you probably start them with body weight movements, then you move them
Yeah.
up to like a broomstick. So what are some of the benefits that they have given you feedback after 6 months or 9 months
Yes,
of
yeah.
them being in the gym with you that they actually carried over into their sport? What were some of the benefits they have given you?
Well, right off the bat, after they start training, even for a little period of time when they're young, they mentally feel like they're getting stronger. You know, they might not be, but in their mind they feel like they're getting stronger, and they can skate a little faster or hit the ball a little harder in baseball, run a little faster as well.
So that you really up their confidence.
That's right, the confidence right off the bat, and that's both boys and girls. The tremendous confidence from accomplishing training in the gym. They definitely get faster, they get a harder shot, or like I said, in baseball or whatever sport, it helps them perform their sport better, and they notice that after a few months, definitely, and they start getting a little ahead of their peers in that respect. But the message that I try and hammer home to them and to the parents is that this is a lot about injury prevention as well too, and we incorporate a lot of body maintenance stuff, like for your shoulders, for your hips, you know, for your knees. And that way, the kids understand that this is what they need. The parents understand that it's not just about getting big and strong and maybe getting too big and they'll slow down or whatnot. We incorporate a lot of mobility right in their workouts, so there's no escaping it. We don't say, okay, go into the corner and do your mobility. You know how that goes. Kids go to the gym on their own. I don't think they're doing mobility or whatnot. It really helps, and it really shows. And I just wanted to add one extra thing there. The model that I can use now, we train the Ottawa Junior A Senators. I say this to parents now because it's a good model about the injury prevention, where we're training them 5 to 6 days a week, whereas most junior teams are maybe once or twice, most AAA teams once a week, which is okay, but the difference is that the junior Senators the past few years have had little to no injuries after we get going with the program. Past couple of years they've won the championship and they've gone into the playoffs with little to no injuries. It's a big bonus when you're structurally balancing your body, and that goes for kids too. Yeah. Kids, the sport develops and balances. We both know that.
Yes.
A lot of people don't think of that. They just think of training as tiring, getting tired, or maybe it's going to bulk them up too much. They don't realize that the sport creates structural imbalances, and a proper strength program will balance the body.
My strength coach and my mentor, Andre, is all about structural balance. I think he wrote the manual on it for Charles.
Yes.
But I know I'm 43 and I'm going through structural balance stuff. And does it ever make a difference in the day? What you're saying is that kids have given you feedback, just to recap what you said, kids notice that their confidence increases,
yes,
right? Because they feel like they're working out and they're doing something, and I think that's very important because that confidence will probably overlay into other aspects of their life. And number two is they're getting better performance, and they're starting to, the coaches probably start to notice that they're starting to excel, especially after 3 to 6 weeks, better than their peers. And number three is that they're not getting injured. And you know, me as a parent who invests money into my kids dancing, I always say when they get injured, we've invested all this money, and now we have to go invest money into rehabilitation.
That's right.
And I think that that's something that at any age category is very important for lifting weights. It's not just always about aesthetics, it's that it is a big part of injury prevention, right?
Very important.
Okay, and so now what are the parents giving you feedback on, right? Because that's the kids. As a parent, have they told you any benefits that they've seen from their child actually starting to lift weights? What's some of the feedback you get from parents?
The parents start noticing, obviously, when they watch their kids perform whatever sport they're doing. But what they really like is when the kids really enjoy doing it and they'll ask the parent, I want to go to the gym today.
Nice.
I don't want to miss my workout. To them, the parents just love seeing that because they want to see their kids healthy. They understand as well too that this isn't just for their sport. This is something hopefully that the kids will take for the rest of their lives and lead a healthy lifestyle.
Better than playing Nintendo or
exactly.
whatever station they play now. I'm not sure. Back in my day, it was Nintendo.
Exactly.
So I just aged myself. But yes, so it's
yeah.
better. So the parents are saying like they want to come to the gym, be more active instead of playing Nintendo.
That's right.
Next question is it you are the Deadlift Factory? So I always see that as your hashtag.
Yes.
Why the deadlift? So why is it that how have you become addicted to this lift so much? And some of the results that you get from some of your kids, because I work with some of your clients, I'm like, man, these guys are deadlifting massive numbers. Tell me, why is it that you've become the Deadlift Factory?
I've done a lot of research, first of all, and I've been to many of the top strength coaches' gyms. Like I was telling you before, and you do the same thing, is you always look, you told me this as well too, you should look at what some of the top guys are doing, and if you see the same thing being done by all these top guys, you know that it's something that's working, that's good.
Success leaves clues.
That's right. And I see some of the gyms that I've been to in the States and here, some of the top guys, they all incorporate deadlifts into their programs. And for me, it's the biggest bang. You get the biggest bang for your buck. Now, it has to be done properly, right? Yeah. And you have to coach people properly. And I think one of my best skills is not necessarily all the knowledge that I've gained and whatnot, but I feel I've got a really good skill at looking at people's movements and seeing what they're capable of doing. I've never had any injuries in my gym because I know what each person is capable of doing by watching their body movement. Okay, you can add 10 pounds to the bar, or you can add 15, or you have to take off because your form is starting to lack, or you're good for 5 or 6 reps on this one.
Your coach's eyes, I think
that's right.
Online coaching is great. I think there's great tools around it, but the coach's eye, especially with athletes, you can see, like, you can up it a little bit more. Now you got to go down because you can see their facial expressions and their movement patterns starting to break down.
Yeah, well, that's what leads me to the deadlifts, where I think I've had really good success with it because I've coached it very well. And we started the kids out when they're younger. So by the time they're 15, they're deadlifting a lot. And their performance on the ice takes off. And then, or whatever sport, I keep saying hockey because a lot of our clients are hockey players. And they're one of the only sports where the testing is done a lot. Football it's done as well too, but they test the athletes when they get to their OHL combines, NCAA, and our guys tend to always test at the top, if not number one. And I attribute that to deadlifts. And we do the different variations, the hex bar, we do the podium, we do eccentric, we do isometric, all those different deadlifts. When it really hit me was when in 2017 we had one of our guys go to the top NHL prospects combine and on ice combine and game, and he finished number one. Out of all the top prospects, NHL prospects, our guy finished number one.
Nice.
I think that's the first time it's happened in Eastern Ontario. At the time, he was deadlifting quite a lot of and I think that helped in his overall strength. Now, for those out there listening, that's not the only thing we do.
Yeah, 100%. You obviously do everything else, but you tag your Deadlift Factory, right?
Yes, that's right.
I think we can all see that everybody in social media has different types of tags, but that's where you guys, because I know all your clients always look forward to that. Like, when are you going to put me on?
Exactly.
Because I've talked to clients like, Harry, my deadlifts is coming. I'm going to be on there. Make sure that you watch it because that's what you've kind of done.
That's right.
Okay.
I just have to add too, because some of my messaging might have been a little too much on that as well too, and we've talked in the past, and we do all the other lifts as well, the support lifts, and what makes us have better deadlifts is all the support stuff, the lower back, the split squats, hip mobility, all that stuff helps you in your deadlift. So I got to emphasize on that too, because it's not just, okay, you're going to deadlift a whole bunch of weight. There's a lot of work behind it.
I think even as a person myself who's being relearning the strength and conditioning game on my own body by having somebody else make up my programmings, is I realize now it's those big lifts are made up of the smallest muscles.
You're exactly right.
And so like you're only as strong as your weakest link.
That's
and
right.
having all those strong links in the chain really pick up those bigger lifts.
Yeah.
So now let's talk about yourself. Okay, so obviously you've been through a transition. You went from an athlete to a dad, and now you're a strength and conditioning. So tell me, what are 3 non-negotiables for your health that you do every day that you feel make you the best?
First off, I have to thank you for changing my whole nutrition habits.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks that they know how to eat properly and they've read this and read that, Men's Health or Fitness, all these magazines. But it wasn't until that, I was recommending some of my clients to you, and I saw the incredible results, just incredible. And they were disciplined enough to follow what you said. So I ended up doing that. It changed my body composition dramatically. I felt better. I'm older now. I'm 59 years old, and I have to 59. I have to start paying more attention.
Good genes there, Gregor.
Yeah, the collagen. But my energy levels are much better now because. Back to your question, nutrition number one.
Okay, so let's break that down. What are 3 things that you do you're a 59-year-old, you're active, you're in good shape, you're on your feet all day long, keeping up with the young bucks.
That's right.
Because I'm sure they chirp you a little bit and you're like, okay, I'm going to do it with you. What are 3 things nutritionally that you do? Because, we have a lot of clients in that age group who are men. I love the fact that you actually told us your age, because a lot of people think when they get to that age, there's certain things that should be happening. What are 3 things that you do nutritionally every day that you've noticed impact your health the most?
Well, the preparation obviously is a big part. I make sure that there's the proper food that's prepared.
So you prep.
My good protein, my good vegetables, and my complex carbs.
Okay.
That's a staple for me that I don't want to have to run anywhere to get food. It's got to be prepared.
So how long do you prep for a week? Because you're also a family of 4?
2 or 3 days. 2 or 3 days in advance, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. For how long? 20 minutes, 30 minutes?
Yeah, probably then. It doesn't take a long time.
Okay, good. So you do 20, 30 minutes of food prep every couple of days to keep your food. Okay, so that's good, because I feel like people need to know more about that. Everybody says, eat protein, not this. You just got to prep your food. But now that you told us, so you do 20 to 30 minutes.
Yeah, it's not hard.
And your hours of a trainer are all over the place.
That's right.
So prep, what's the second thing that you do for your nutrition?
I got to make sure that I'm eating. There's long periods of time where I'm working. And I had asked you this question a little while ago too. So what happens if I have like 3 or 4 sessions in a row? That's 4 hours. I got to eat in between then, and I got to prepare for that as well too. So I'm making sure that I'm eating properly in between sessions or during sessions.
So give us an example of a meal that you eat fast. What's a fast meal that you eat in between those clients? Because we have a lot of PTs. You're going to have doctors, massage therapists, and just people who work in retail. Or nowadays with Zoom meetings, it's like back to back to back. So give us, what's a 5-minute meal that you would eat?
Well, I mean, for today, for example, I had my cooked up bison burgers.
Okay.
It was all ground up. And then I had a little bit of asparagus.
Okay.
It was already pre-cooked, so I just had to heat it up and then a little bit of potato.
Good.
But I don't mind eating that stuff cold as well. It doesn't bother me. I'll eat it even if it's cold. I don't have to heat it up. I have a microwave at work.
So you just ground burger, a little bit of ground burger, a little bit of asparagus, all like that, eat boom, done, 5 minutes. Okay,
right.
good. What's a third thing? So you obviously are prepping your food, you are taking time to be cognizant that you actually need to eat. And then what's a third thing that you do for your nutrition? Like what's something food? Tell us something a little bit more specific. What's one thing that you have every day in your meals that you know makes you feel best?
I've had to change my diet a little bit lately. What makes me feel good though actually is eating a little more complex carbs.
Gotcha.
Not
carbs, Greg. You're eating carbs?
Yes,
Jeez, that's got to be like blasphemy. Where's the research that carbs are bad?
That's right. Jeez. That's right. And for me, I was kind of failing on that a bit. I was trying to push carbs out a bit more, or I wasn't eating the amount of carbs that I should be until you told me. I got a tune-up from you, and so I started adding a little bit of white rice, a little potatoes. I just love eating the potatoes and the sweet potato.
So how much carbs would you eat in a day? Like, just tell us in cups. 2 cups, 3 cups, 4 cups? How many cups of carbs would you eat a day?
Probably 2 to 3 at the most.
Okay, great. That's good. No, people need to hear that. That 2 to 3 cups of complex carbs is roughly about 200 calories per. So if you ate that 2 to 3 times a day, right, because you said you were failing, so that means you were probably eating other sources of carbs because you got too hungry.
Yes.
Now just eating 400 calories or 500 calories from good carbs prevents you from binging out. You prep it, you organize it, and you're able to eat it, and you got lots of energy for your whole day. Okay. So now what are 2 other, so we got the nutrition piece. What are 2 other things that you do for your health that are non-negotiables that you do every day? What are they?
Well, another thing that actually yourself and another friend of ours got me into was the Wim Hof therapy with the cold plunge.
Yeah, I know.
So,
That's why you do. You're a big cold plunger.
I'm addicted to it now, and I'm glad that I am. I think that it's really helped me a lot, my health a lot. I do my meditation, the Wim Hof breathing technique, which I think is essential as well too. 10 to 15 minutes. Again, not hard. These things are not hard. You just have to take that time. Instead of watching, 3 hours of TV, you can take 15 minutes, do your breathing, and then either a cold shower for 2 to 3 minutes every day, and then once every 2 weeks, I like to get in a cold tub. I have a tub in my backyard. I'll fill it with water, put some ice in it. Time of year, obviously, I can just sit in it, and it's at a good temperature from the outdoor air.
I was just going to say, you got to tell the story about you being in Banff, and you went into which lake?
Yeah, I went into the Bow River, which is glacier fed, and it was late October. It was probably, at the most, it was probably 40 degrees in the water. And that's
always, moving water, that's harder.
Moving water is much harder. I can always tell when it's really cold because my shins ache. So I have to, when I first go in, it's not about necessarily the cold, it's my shins ache for about 15, 20 seconds. I have to power through that, and then I'm fine after that.
I can't do it with my hands. I can do the cold plunge, I just can't do it with my, once my hands go in, I can't do it, but if I don't, the hands don't go in, it's easy.
I sometimes I'll put my hands on my thighs, and that helps.
Gotcha.
That helps. But
so you do a cold plunge, and then what's the third thing you do for your health every day?
The third thing, it has to be, I have to get some kind of strength training in, some kind of exercise in. Sometimes it's at the end of the day and I'm tired, I don't get the best workouts in, but I still force myself to do something, even if it's for 15, 20 minutes.
Perfect.
I'll do a few sets of bench and some pull-ups, or maybe I'll do the Aerodyne bike, assault bike. Maybe just Eric Gagnon taught me the 20 rep max squat. So I'll do a very small warm-up, and then I'll do 20 reps with like 225 on or something like that. Sometimes to the bench, not all the way down, sometimes all the way down.
So what you're saying is you lift some weights, even if it's for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It's just, and I think that's a reoccurring theme on the podcast is everybody who's a professional, because I speak to a lot of clients every day, and I always say, just don't let a zero in. I'm like, even if you go downstairs and you just do 20 push-ups, don't let zero. And it's one theme that we've heard from a lot of our people as health professionals is they just say, I just don't allow a zero. So even if you're tired, just go do 5 minutes of like a body weight or an assault bike, get it done. But once you let the zero happen, it becomes a bad habit long term.
That's right. And I always tell my clients that the best workouts you have are the ones that you didn't want to go, but you made yourself go. You feel so much better doing something rather than doing nothing. Because like you said, and it's like food. You let one thing slide, then it's a little more starts sliding. The next thing you know, it becomes bigger.
And that's the universal principle of business, right? Like if you talk to a lot of business, they'll just say, if you give employees this much, they take this much, right? So it happens with everything else. Okay, so how do people get a hold of Greg? How do we get a hold of you? What's your handles? Where does everybody get a hold of you?
Yeah, we have a website, gladiatortraining.ca, and you can email through there. We're on Instagram, Gladiator Strength Training. We're on Facebook, Gladiator Strength and Conditioning. And you can call me as well, 613-314-9946.
Look at that phone number right there, old school. Look at that.
I prefer to talk to people. So when people do email me, I'll say, can you send me your number or I'll send them mine. Please call me, because I would much rather speak to people in person, find out their individual needs, what their concerns are, instead of sort of an impersonal email back and forth. My Lone Star background, I enjoy hospitality, I enjoy service, and I enjoy being around people and speaking and explaining what we do.
You're an in-person coach.
In person,
right. That's awesome. That's great to hear. Well, there you have it, guys. That's Greg Pollock, the man, the myth, the legend himself. Thank you for sharing this great experience. You've been, obviously, I love hearing the stories to how people got into it.
Yes.
Right? It's usually the ones who are always successful at their trade are the ones who had a natural need for it themselves.
Yes.
Right? And they went through the ups and downs and the learning experience of it. And when you get that, then you know how your client is, what they're feeling as well. And you can put yourself in their shoes and explain to them from your personal experience how it changed your life. And I love those stories. So thank you very much for sharing that. If you need to get a hold of Greg, get a hold of him. And thank you very much for taking the time to listen, and have a beautiful day.